welcome Angela Carrigan. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm a little nervous.
I was saying, I tell this to everybody. They come in here and they're all nervous to start, but once you kind of just start talking, everything lets loose. And we're here to talk about you. Like, I want to know, well, I'm going to start off by saying, actually, so you and I, when did we meet? 2007? No. When was that?
It was probably about 2017.
Yeah, Kevin's shop. And then, where'd you go after that? Actually, hold on. We'll get into that. I want you to tell it. Where I'm kind of going with this is we ended up reconnecting because I came to a point in my business and career where I was like, okay, I need to get more exposure. I need to get my name out there. I need to get better at what I do. So I need someone's help. So I remember this very well. I was scrolling, all of a sudden you popped up on Instagram, and I planting that seed, I call it. And I remember I was like, oh yeah, Angela. So then that's when I messaged you and I was like, hey, I need your help with social media because I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know if I've actually said this to you, but I most definitely credit you for being right here right now, because you lit that fire under my ass to actually get going. Because prior to this, I never did anything with this kind of stuff. Never created any social media content, never none of this stuff or whatever. So I credit you for getting me going, and that set me on a whole different path to be where now I'm just I enjoy social media content. I am back to enjoying learning again. I'm back to being able to enjoy helping people. Because as you know, I was kind of in that low spot when we connected again. And so I really appreciate that about you. And because I remember my exact words on our phone call was I need you to be a bitch. And I was like, and I know you're a bitch.
I'm good at that.
So
you found the right person.
Right? And so like I said, that lit the fire under my ass, and I'm very appreciative of you. And I'm glad you're here today. And I want to talk about you and with your business and not only that, but the things you've been through, because you do deal with MS, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So let's start off by telling everybody who you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So again, Angela Carrigan, and I'm a digital marketer. My main areas of focus right now are web design and social media management. I do offer other services such as SEO, but my main passion is design and actually helping people. So exactly what you said, when you came to me, you were so frustrated, which is what a lot of people do. They're just I don't care about this. I hate social media. I don't want to do it. I don't have time for it. And so that's pretty much my favorite, that's the best case scenario, because I help to give people tools, and whether they work with me for a couple of months or for a couple of years, I've had, both cases. It's really to just inspire people to learn about that aspect of their business and reach new audiences, or get excited about sharing their information in a way that people are going to digest. So perfect example is when I met you. You have so much knowledge and so much information, and you were putting out the content you were putting out. You were I'm not getting any engagement, but it was so much. And we've talked about, people's attention spans and stuff like that, how it's 6 to 8 seconds, which I remember you were furious with that.
Yep.
But it's whether or not you're pissed about that, that's just the way it is. And reality. So how can we work within that to get people engaged? So super happy to hear that I was able to help you in that way. And that's basically my passion in my business is, either inspiring people, coaching people to learn how to effectively use social media to grow their small business. Primarily, I work with small businesses and just help them get digital, whether that's by updating a website. We did website work for you as well.
Which was amazing, which she nailed. And she always messages, oh, we could talk about revision. I'm like, what? You nailed it. There's nothing that I really have to say other than positive things. That's my most favorite thing is I love my website that you have created.
Which is great, because I also like to always remind people too, social media, there's so much that could go wrong. You could, get hacked and lose your entire following. So if you at least have a website, and a good website that people can find and navigate, that is your owned asset. So you will forever have that, whether social media comes and goes, followers, that website is such an important asset for your business. And a lot of people think, oh, my website's fine for now. I have a client that I do social media for. And he's like, oh, I don't know if this is being effective. And I'm like, I can tell you that I'm sending, 150 to 200 people from the social media efforts to your website a month. be like, your website sucks. And it's kind of funny because he's a dentist. And I said that to his face. And I was like, I'm not here to sell you a website. Like, I know you want to retire. So if you want to retire in 2 years, it's probably, you know, hobble by on this website that you have. But if you're somebody who's looking to be in business for another 10 years and your website is shit, like, you need to change it. Mm-hmm. So I'm just really passionate about helping people, you know, better understand the digital space, and then also helping them make sure that they're presenting well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like, because I knew the website was like a must, because I've had people tell me before, like a good friend of mine was like, I've sent you like lots of potential clients, but they've taken one look at your website and have been like, see you later, because it was so poor. Like I made it just like off of a whim, not understanding the importance of a website, thinking, oh, whatever. It's just a place for people to come to fill out the submission form. But then like, I got to put yourself in their shoes. Well, how would you feel if you come across this website? And so prior to that, I think, because I've had my business for many, many years now, I've maybe had one person reach out on the website. Since the new website, I've had like, I think 15 to 20, and it's only been a couple months. And that's with me, like still minimal exposure, because I'm just, you know, just starting to get that exposure. So to see that importance of the website was very like revolutionary. And then to be able to put, for me, what felt like personally was minimal effort forth, and for you to come with just exactly what I was looking for, like that's why you hire people. Right?
Well, and I know when we started working together too, I really had to light the fire under your ass. You were kind of second guessing a lot. And I think when I met you, you were just, or like, I mean, I met you years ago, but when we started reconnected this past summer, I think you were just at a spot of like, kind of like just feeling really disheartened and like down a little bit about your business, which I think anyone who has a business, it's not as easy as it looks when you just look on social media and you see, oh, this person has all this success. And like, there would be situations where you're like, well, like this person has 20,000 followers. And I'm like, okay, that looks great on the outside. Let's peel it back. They're only getting 15 likes on their post. So if you actually figure out the engagement, your posts are performing better than that person. Mm-hmm. You know, so we tend to get caught up in these vanity metrics that just kind of drag us down in our business.
Sorry to cut you off. Could that also be like they bought followers? Could that be something like that too? Or...
I mean, it can. There's different techniques that people like do. Sometimes people will go and just like follow, and then unfollow people, which there's been like even businesses local to me that have done that. And I'm like, that's so annoying. Block. You know what I mean?
Fair. Okay.
I just don't think it's like an ethical way of gaining followers, and you're not gaining quality followers. So quality followers would be people who actually want to engage in your content, because that engagement rate kind of feeds back to the algorithm about how relevant your content is to your following. Mm-hmm. So if you have 20,000 followers, but 19,000 of them don't give a shit about health, they're not going to want to know about your diproxy this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Fancy word.
Those big words. I don't know them, but you know what I mean? Like they're never going to like it because that content is so irrelevant to them that it probably won't even be showing up in their feeds. Mm-hmm. So it's like, cool, 20,000 followers, 19,000 of them are trash and essentially useless. So like, who are you impressing? At the end of the day, you know, somebody with a small, well-maintained following can actually perform much better. Like even, you know, they can see that reflected in their own finances if it's a business, than some account that is just going for like, oh, I have 20, I have 30, I have 40,000 followers.
Yeah, because I see that sometimes you're like, you could tell these people are not doing the greatest financially, but they have tons of followers. And then you realize, okay, well, they're not really offering anything. And I think this is like, not to knock on anybody, but this is when you got the, I think the sex appeal, you know, right? Because a lot of people can appreciate beauty. Right. So you mentioned like, you know, me throwing out fancy words or like maybe health isn't relevant to them. But I think anyone on this planet can appreciate beauty, or even when you talk about haters. Yeah. Right. So then that beauty aspect can bring on both. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's another reason why they potentially get a lot of followers.
It definitely could be. And then that could kind of fall under a bit of like influencer type culture, because somebody who, I mean, that's exactly it. Our society does base a lot on looks, but I feel like that's changing so much as well on social media. You know, we see all different shapes, sizes, colors that can be successful. Mm-hmm. I think it can fall under a bit of influencer because people fall in love with that person. for whatever they're representing and however they're connecting with that person. And if that's like a super hot dude with his shirt off, like, you know, there is a market for that and people will fall in love with that. But it's hard because it does all kind of connect. And at the end of the day, especially like somebody like yourself, you are the brand. When people are coming to hire you, they're hiring you for you.
Yeah.
Even if you had less knowledge than you do, like if they like you as a person, they're going to see you as an authority and more likely come to work with you.
Well, that's why you mentioned too, like to make things personable and like kind of show your life. Because otherwise you kind of just look like a robot and then people don't know who you are, anything about you.
100%. That's why, you know, posts like behind the scenes, all of that, people love to connect with the person behind a brand. So even for my clients who offer, let's say like dental or optometry, they're kind of very dry subjects. I mean, there's obviously people out there that are probably a little more passionate about it, but generally they're not high engagement type accounts online. But as soon as you post a picture of like the staff celebrating somebody's birthday in the office, like the engagement like quadruples, like it's really just crazy because people want that human connection and they want like realness.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I come to learn that like the vulnerability, I find that too. Like, you know, I used to hide behind a lot of things because I felt like, oh, well, like if I've experienced this, that doesn't mean I'm a good coach. But well, one, I've overcome a lot of the things that I've been through. But two, it's like that's very relatable for people now.
Well, it's even interesting. Like, so you talk about being more vulnerable online, and I preach this to all of my clients. I'm like, you got to be vulnerable. You got to be transparent. Like, and then I'm the worst for not doing that. So it's funny because it's like, I know that it works. And then I have such a struggle doing that because as a person, I am a little bit more private, I guess. And so perfect example was, you mentioned how I have MS. So I've dealt with MS I got diagnosed when I was 21. So I won't say how many years, it's been a couple, but, so I've dealt with it for a long time and it's not something I've ever openly talked about, even though I know that I could take that and put it on social media and like use it as an angle. And some people probably would. I've just never really done that. And, you know, recently I signed up to do my first MS walk. And so I actually, for probably the first time ever, actually made a social media post.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. On, just saying, you know, kind of, I guess, coming out that I have MS and just giving some basic information to people about
when was this?
What MS is, last week. And so, yeah, I just made a post kind of saying like, it's something that I've dealt with, giving information about what MS is as a disease, an autoimmune disease.
Oh.
And basically just saying that I'm going to be participating in the walk, giving a donation link, but then also...
I liked it, by the way. That's what I was doing.
Oh, thanks. Probably took it up to number 69. But so shared that link and then also came up with a different strategy. So I said, like, for the month of May, anybody who books like a photo shoot with me will get 50% of the photo shoot is going to get donated to the walk. So, you know, then people can have something that kind of, they're getting something as well, but it's going towards a cause. But I felt so vulnerable even making that post. And I tried to keep it very positive and not like, woe is me. I did make a slide about sort of the invisible effects MS can have on a person, because a lot of people will say, well, you look fine, which is literally like, I want to throat punch you. You never know what somebody's struggle is internally or what's going on with their health, whether it's like mental, whether it's physically.
Well, and women are so much stronger than men too. So that's another reason why we don't see that aspect. I'll just quickly I'll just say for those that don't know. So MS, multiple sclerosis, that is where your immune system attacks what's known as your myelin sheath, which is a protective barrier around your neurons. That's what I'll just say that so people have a little bit of understanding, so that it can really affect, everything. Because of your neurons. Yeah,
essentially you have no idea. You could wake up one day and not be able to walk or be able to see. Mm-hmm. I've been fairly lucky with it. But yeah, so it was still a very vulnerable post for me to put out there. And it was so well received. I think part of my maybe resistance to ever posting about it is because I never want to be one of those people, and I'm sure we all know that person on social media that it feels like they're looking for attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like something. So I guess... And I like, again, always encourage my clients to be transparent with their audiences, but it was really well received. And I actually had a lot of people reach out, some past photography clients. I do photography as well, by the way. It kind of ties in with my digital marketing. But I also do some lifestyle photography. So I actually had a couple clients from the past that reached out and were like, oh my God, I had no idea that you like had MS. Like I've actually had MS. Or I had somebody that I randomly met out one night at Bose, who we just, we had a great night. We were having some drinks, whatever, met her. We were like, oh yeah, we should go for a drink sometime. Never happened. You know how those nights go. And then we had added each other to social media. And so she reached out and she was like, oh my God, my dad has dealt with MS my whole life. I would love to book a photo shoot with you. So it's also, double-edged sword. Like it is great promotion for my business as well, but it's kind of like a win all around. Like people get a photo shoot, everybody wins, which that's sort of what I'm all about. Mm-hmm. But so that's just like a perfect example of how when you are vulnerable on social media, how you can actually make connections where people relate with you.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes it more personable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I said, that's what I noticed when I share, okay, this is what I've actually been through. So it's all of a sudden, people are like coming out of the woodworks and like, hey, like I've kind of experienced that as well and everything. And then it also like, in my line of work, it gives me that credibility. Because it's like I've not only have I worked with it, but now I've experienced it myself. So I say this isn't my first rodeo, right? So
it's my second.
Only my second.
No, 100%. Because I even think of like somebody like myself who's struggled with weight my entire life, as far back as I can remember. If I'm going to go look for somebody like to be a personal trainer or somebody to help me, that picture of that shirtless tattooed guy, like I might follow, I might like, just because I'm like, yeah, you're easy on the eyes. But like, other than that, I probably wouldn't actually reach out to them, because to me, they would be maybe a little bit intimidating and I don't feel like I would per se connect with them. Whereas let's say there was somebody who, struggled with weight loss their whole life and they found out how to balance that and they showed before and after pictures and were like transparent about their struggles. And, maybe they love to go out and have wine. Like that's a huge part for me. I'm a very social person. So, for me, I can't wrap my head around like just not ever drinking.
Yeah.
Bless your heart for being so strict with that. But, so then I would connect with somebody like that more and be more likely to want to work with them.
Yeah.
Even though, option A might have 20,000 followers, option B might have 1,000 followers, great reviews, stuff like that, just because of the personal connection.
Well, that's what I've said to people. You could be, I've said this in multiple podcasts now, I probably sound like a broken record, but like you mentioned, like I do have knowledge, right? But that doesn't mean diddly squat sometimes when it comes to coaching. And it took me a long time to become a decent coach. Very knowledgeable person, but to actually be able to coach people was an entirely different story, because it comes down to personality and how you interact with these individuals. I could have the most perfect program on paper, whether that be nutrition, supplemental, training, lifestyle intervention, whatever. If I couldn't connect with you and help you apply these in your journey, it doesn't matter how much knowledge I have.
Well, and also, like I said, you use big words.
Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Peasants don't understand.
Well, you know why I use big words though, or I did and everything? It was lack of confidence. It was, okay, I feel like people don't believe in me, so I need to throw out fancy terminology to get people to trust me. Which was actually it wasn't that they distrust me, but it was like they weren't interested in engaging, because
them away, because they're like, you talk fast, you talk with big words. Like I have no idea. I don't understand what you're saying. Like you do have to break it down, because you're the expert in this area. I'm not. So when you talk like that, I'm like, I have no idea. Like it just is like so over my head that I get disinterested.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do the same too when I talk about digital marketing and social media. Like I'll be like SEO and ROIs, blah, blah, blah. And people are just like, I talk about, and to me, it doesn't seem like
it's so natural.
It's so natural, because like when you're taught, like that's your day-to-day language. To you don't think that those, crazy vitamins and this like whatever body process would be a big deal. But then to somebody who, isn't in that world at all, it's just kind of off-putting. So
Well, we tend to forget where we came from too.
Exactly.
When you've been doing it for such a long time, you tend to forget that at one point I never knew what any of these big words meant.
Yeah.
And at one point I pretended I knew what these big words meant.
Yeah.
You know?
I just do the classic smile and nod.
Yeah, smile, wave,
It's
voice.
like lights are on, nobody's home.
Yeah. So what was the defining moment? What led you into the whole digital marketing and photography and everything?
Oh boy, it's been a journey, that's for sure. I actually originally went to school for business management. And I had this kind of big dream of like, I was a vegetarian at the time. So I was going to move out to Vancouver and start this like vegetarian cafe and like have live music. And like, I had like this, total pipe dreams that you have in college when you still think the world is your oyster. You haven't been completely crushed by the reality of adulthood. So went out to Vancouver and got my first job and everything. And quickly realized a lot of the stuff I would be doing is just office work and admin. And of course, having that dream of starting a cafe, I'm not saying it's not possible, but when you literally have $50 left on your credit card, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away, that's for sure. So I just kind of ended up moving to Squamish, where I managed a hair salon, which I actually really enjoyed because I love interacting with people. I like problem solving. So you have a lot of that when you do any sort of retail management. You have people come in that, hate this or that cut sucked or this person did this, and just figuring out how to make solutions for people. And that kind of led me down a bit of a journey of getting into retail management. So I also managed a store in Vancouver, Sage.
That's the
Essential Oils.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I managed that. I was assistant manager there for a while. And I always loved the aspect of interacting with people, problem solving, how to upsell things, how to make processes smoother. But I still felt like I was really lacking an element of being able to be creative, which I've always been drawn to. And I've always kind of dabbled in photography. So I've always had that element. And the other part was I love to travel. So I was kind of developing a habit in my 20s of, working for 2 or 3 years, getting set up in a place, and then just selling everything off, quitting my job, booking a one-way ticket, across the world. And, when I got into my 30s, I was like, shit, this, I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm never going to have a pot to piss in if this is what I keep doing. So I had talked to my sister and I was trying to figure out what I might want to do. At this point, I was, again, had fallen into an admin role that it wasn't really feeding my soul. I felt all right, well, I kind of was in a bit of a rut, living day to day. And my sister said, well, why don't you look into UX design? And so I started to look into UX UI design, and I found it so fascinating. Understand. So UX is again, see, look at me going with those terms. I'm like, come on, Curtis. It's UX UI, obviously, catch up. So UX is user experience and UI is user interface.
Okay.
So UX is really understanding human psychology of how they move through design. So even grocery stores use user experience. When you walk in, how do people maneuver through the store and then finally come to the checkout? So the psychology behind this is, even when we were building your website, you were like, well, I think I want the contact form and then the reviews. And I was like, just how user experience works, that needs to be flipped, and there's reasons behind that. Mm-hmm. So the best way to kind of also put it is user experience would be, if you're building a house, it's the walls, it's putting in the windows, the architectural layout, essentially. UI is picking the paint colors, decorating. Okay. So UI is more coming up with style guides, stuff like that to decorate the website. So I had, and the course I took was actually for app design specifically. So I had done that, but again, living in Red Deer, it wasn't exactly a tech hub. And I was kind of coming up. I had just done about 2.5 years of schooling for this to get the program done. And I was coming up on that 3-year mark where I like to throw caution to the wind and book a one-way ticket. So off to Croatia I went, and by the time I got back, it was kind of hard to find a job in Red Deer. I ended up, my old company offered me a substantial raise. So I just took the easy way, which sometimes I do regret because I feel like I could have started, got my foot in the door earlier, but also I'd literally just traveled until like every credit card was maxed out, like every penny gone. I think I was gone for about 2 months, but
okay, yeah.
So fell into the role of this admin again. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this as short as I can.
No, hey, tell the whole story.
Angela biography.
That's the point of this.
But so I came back, fell back into this admin role, was living in Red Deer, just kind of feeling very like FML, like this is not the life I want to be living. And then COVID happened, which I know was really devastating and negative and for a lot of people. But for me, a lot of good actually came from it because I got a temporary layoff essentially. And at the time I was dating somebody who it was a bit of a toxic relationship. So I basically overnight just packed up my car and moved to Vancouver, which I've done that about like 12 times in my adult life. So it's kind of an ongoing joke with a lot of my friends. They're just like, oh, what are you going to do about it? Move to Vancouver? Probably. Everything I own fits in my car.
Face your problems, just move to Vancouver.
If I don't, if the service at the restaurant's bad,
no tip, I'm off to Vancouver.
But so I moved out to Vancouver. And once I was out there, again, I kind of was like trying to look for those UX UI jobs. But it was such bad timing with COVID. Nobody was really hiring. And then I started to look a little bit more. As I was looking for jobs, I saw like a common theme was like social media and digital marketing. There was a lot of jobs posted for that. And that's when I looked into going back to schooling. So I ended up taking a program through a school. It's a private school called Brain Station. And so I got my diploma in 3 months, which was basically a suicide mission. I remember one of the girls in my class, we were kind of like sectioned off in a group. It was all over Zoom. And she was just like, I didn't know we were going to need hard drugs to get through this. So I was like, it was funny because she was like the last person I'd expect to say that. But I was like, preach girl. It was horrible. But like, I am so glad I did it. And I'm glad I did it in 3 months. Like, sometimes I wasn't glad throughout the program. Like I was actually like, probably when I had about a month left, I was like getting pissed. I was like, you guys, this is stupid. But I mean, it was amazing because like I had the opportunity. We did like a marketing sprint is what they would call it. And we actually got to work with Adidas, like the head office. They had some people that would come in. It was all virtual. So when I say come in on a Zoom class, which, but yeah, it was great. And when I finished that, I got on at an agency fairly quickly and started working and doing more web design there, just kind of learning hands-on and a lot of social media. And those were kind of my two main areas. And I like both of those. They're probably my favorite. I'm not really an SEO.
So that's search engine optimization.
SEO is search engine optimization. And it's really just working with like keywords. So I have a pretty good understanding of it and I can do it to an extent, but it's just, I'm trying not to be that person that's like jack of all trades, master of none. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel like I've done that my whole life. So I offer those services, but I work with somebody else when I do SEO.
What's the finish to that sentence where people try to back it up that it's not a bad thing? Jack of all trades, master of none, but
no idea.
It's their defense saying that it's okay. And like, I get it. Like, but at the same time, there's specialists for a reason. And so if you're not putting all your undivided attention to that, you can't really be a master at it.
Well, and that's the thing is I'm like, I also just don't want to be like, I'm like to the point where I'm like, if I don't love something, I don't want to do it.
That was me with personal training.
Yeah. So, and it's not that like, I think it's so important for me to have an understanding of all the things. And because now I'm to the point where I work basically essentially freelance or small agency, I need to have an understanding and I need to kind of like be able to wobble my way through, some IT aspects of the job or like when it comes to websites, like that's definitely not my strength is, when people sign up for an email and I ask them not to.
What are you talking about? I have no idea.
When somebody has, I don't know if there's like a vitamin out there for better listening skills.
There actually is.
You should be taking that.
I am now.
But anyways, like, so those aspects, it's like I need to be able to do them, but it's definitely not my strength. So it can be like time consuming. So, but yeah, so I worked at the agency for a year and it was frustrating because I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this where you've spent so much money on school and you've spent so much time and you've given so much time and you get these jobs where it's like they're going to give you 2 weeks of vacation. You can barely cover your bills and like, yet you're like getting so much stress dumped on you. I actually started getting severe anxiety ended up in the hospital one day, like just having a total panic attack. And like I literally looked insane, sitting in the corner, like breathing in my paper bag. I had a shield on because it was COVID times. And like they tried to make me have a mask. And I was like, like losing my mind. Literally can never go to the Red Deer Hospital emerge again. I'm sure they'll remember me. But yeah, so I just kind of like started being like, this is not like what I signed up for when I did all of this. So I'm very much like an advocate for like, if you're not happy with where you are, like change it. Like you get one life, you get one shot, like just go after your dreams. It'll always work out. Might not work out 100% how you envision, but like
life is what you make it.
Yeah. And if you just stay stagnant, like if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I just like, after a year of being there, I was like, I'm going to do this on my own. And I had actually already built up a couple of clients on the side, which was not, it was a bit of a no-no, but never been a rule follower. So suck it. Yeah. And so I had a couple of clients and I remember just really working. I'm a big believer in manifestations and goal setting. And I remember listening to a podcast actually about manifestation, and it was talking about energy and how one really good practice is to put money under your front doormat, and it kind of symbolizes like the flow of money coming in. And I think just because mentally I was like really,
where do you live?
It's like a toonie. Every time my house cleaner comes, I like check and I'm like, honest lady.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so I put it under there and then literally signed 2 new clients that week, which essentially let me put my notice into the agency. And then it really grew quite organically. Again, like through social media, people contacting me. But when I started on my own, it was kind of funny because I was like, yeah, I'm a digital marketer, social media manager. They're like, oh, like I'd run into people. They'd be like, do you have a page? I'm like, no. And I'm like, it's like the shoemaker's shoe or like mechanic's car. Like, and it was funny because I would just crack that joke and like would get clients like left, right, and center. And I mean, I have most of those clients to this day. So it did like, again, when you talk about, you know, just going after your dreams and being open to what's going to come. And I'm a big advocate, like for whatever your dreams are and whatever you want to do, you just gotta like grab life by the balls and go for it. So
well, I love that. I love that because here's what I say. I always tell people like life is what you make it, exactly like along the lines of what you're saying. And then there's always some sort of rebuttlement to that. Like, oh, I have bills to pay or whatever. And I'm like, okay, nobody told you to acquire those bills. Nobody told you to rack up your credit cards. Nobody, right? So it's up to you to address that situation. And whether that be manifestation, moving to Vancouver, whatever it takes, it's up to you because nobody held a gun to your head and said, hey, you're going to have to pay this much in rent. You're going to get a phone with this phone bill. That was all your choice for most people.
100%. And I also think like, it's not fucking easy. Like, it is hard work. When people say, oh, you're so lucky, I'm like, you don't see like the hours and hours and hours of spent. And I'm sure you know this too, of just like YouTubing, like finding like solutions to problems and like, you know, maybe getting like a side job. So it's not like, okay. And some people do just have like luck up the hoo-ha and they can just like make that change and it just like happens and flows and whatever. I think sometimes there's also things behind the scenes, and to tie it back into social media, like this is the image people are putting out to the world. So you might see the image like, oh, like yesterday I was this and today I decided to do this. And I just did this and it changed my life. But it's like, you don't know the full truth. Like they could have had parents that supported them in this transition financially. There could be so much more behind it. So social media is never presenting the full truth.
Yeah.
So, and that's really hard because even myself, like I spend so much time on social media. I'm like, how do all these other people make it look so easy? Like here I am like pinching pennies together, trying to like, you know, save up enough for like a new computer or like a new piece of equipment for my like photography or whatever. And
well, it doesn't help that stuff is super expensive.
You want like your first child.
Yeah. Like there's that to take into account.
But like, so it's, you know, it's not always as easy as people maybe make it look. And for myself personally, like I've put years and years and years into hard work and ongoing education and like racked up student debt and all of these things so that I could get this job that I can work remotely if I want to. You know, this winter I got the opportunity to go to Mexico super last minute, and I didn't have to, you know, beg a boss who was going to make me feel terrible about it. I could just go.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen overnight. Like I've literally grinded for years and years and years to get to this point.
Yeah.
And I still have to grind and grind more. Like it's not over and it's not easy, but if that's your dream, like I would never trade it for the world.
Yeah. And like, I don't know how much this applies to like your industry and your job, but like in mine, I remember a long time ago, a good friend of mine, I'll say his name, like Kevin and Wes. I remember Wes got a meal plan from Kevin, and he was like, Wes was all mad. He's like, my own cousin or whatever charged me X amount of money for this. And at the time I was kind of like, you don't understand. So you're like, oh yeah, you think, right? You're not paying for that piece of paper. You're paying for all the years of education, all the experience, all the freaking sleepless nights of stressing and trying to figure out how to help people, whatever that be. You're not paying for that piece of paper. Like one time someone accused me of copying, pasting, and I almost died. I was like, are you kidding me? Like there are times when I've cried and not slept because I'm trying everything in my power to learn how to help this individual. They don't see that. Oh, 100%. They just see the text message and they just see the nutrition plan, the supplement, whatever it may be. The test that like they don't see everything that was put forth. And that goes back to what you said in the beginning there. Nobody has any idea what you are going through. Nobody. Even if that person was your significant other and they were day to day, they have an idea of what you're going through, but they're not you.
Yeah.
They have no idea what you've gone through. And I think that's like a big issue with today's society I was saying this on the last podcast, the one I was a guest on. They're like, what about a woman irks you or whatever? I said, this is both men and women. I was like, assumptions. You have no idea. I'm just so tired. You have no idea what this person has done in their life and what they've been through and what they've accomplished to get to this point, to be able to help you, to be able to create my website on a whim with me giving you minimal shit to work with.
Just a headache.
It is though. That's the thing though. It is.
Well, and I am getting better at, when I first started my business, I thought, you know, I got to bleed for everyone. My first year of business, I was so stressed out, so on edge because I would get, you know, messages from as early as 5 a.m. Just kidding. Those ones aren't so bad because I'm going to yoga in the morning, but like, you know, till as late as 2 a.m.
Can I just say something to that quick? So this is the problem that I have, because it's one of those things where I don't know if you look at it as selfishness, but if you were to text me at 5 a.m, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me. And if I was busy, I would just get to it later. So I think that's where my mind goes. And I think I understand this about other people as well.
And honestly, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But I think my first year, I was like, I got to be instant. I got to be instant responses. So I was like it wasn't even other people. It was myself putting that stress or expectation on myself. And, you know, I thought things have to be done instantly, or so I was where now I'm like a little bit more, I guess, like I advocate for myself a little bit more in a way that I probably never even had to per se advocate for, but like to myself, to like be not so hard on myself, to be like, I need to, you know, get up at 5 and work till 2 and I can't see any of my friends and I can't do any of this. Like I got to work. And once again, I was just back in that place of like, this is not the life I've wanted, but it's all been a learning and growing experience. So I feel like I have come to a spot where it's a lot more balanced. Also, like I find we live in a bit of a society where it's like a competition of who's busier. Do you know what I mean? Like,
hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you for a while. Oh, I'm busy. That's, oh my God.
I got kids. They've got sports. They've got this. They've got that. Like blah, blah, blah. Like we have to like have this competition. It's like, why can't we just like love like being like, yeah, I slept for 3 hours this afternoon. It was sweet. Like, you know what I mean?
I needed
it's like,
that.
It's like almost like, I don't know about other people, but I have like this shame. Like I have to like account for every hour of my day, and it just shouldn't be like that. So this year I've really been focused a lot more on like balance, and it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. But I do feel like, especially when you're trying to do creative work, if you're not like in that heightened state of like anxiety, I feel like you actually produce a lot better work. So,
well, it's funny because I'll have a little bit of pushback to that. I 100% agree with you, because obviously, you know, you're thinking more with your prefrontal cortex, which means you're calmer, more creative. But their studies actually show. So I wanted to comment on when you're talking about how you're like in the hospital having a panic attack, there's so much stress. A lot of doctors, like who go for their doctorate, they end up getting like schizophrenia. It's because we were talking about dopamine prior to this, because that stress is is pushing so much dopamine, which tips the scales. And so this is where they've actually, like, crazy people are creative. It's that excessive dopamine. So I think it's that fine line, though. It's if you're able to, how do I say this? Like, be able to apply that craziness into creativity versus having that calm sense where you can rationally think and make the correct choices kind of idea.
Again, like, it's finding the fine balance.
Yeah.
I think. And I'm still, like, obviously a work in progress, but long story short, it's just like, nothing is as easy as it seems. Definitely not as easy as it seems or is presented across social media. And it's funny too, because this year I'm a lot better about if people are nickel and diming me. I get it a lot with social media. Like, well, I could just do this.
What does that mean again?
Like, they're trying to, like, penny pinch. They're trying to, like, save money or, like,
so get more out of you for less?
Yeah, like, they'll be like, well, like, that's a little over our budget, or like, we weren't looking to spend that much on social media. And I just, like, I would have maybe last year, because I felt like I couldn't turn people away.
Yeah.
I would have been like, okay, well, like, maybe we can discount it here or there or whatever. We'll make it work. And now I'm just like, okay.
You know your worth.
I'm like, okay, great. Like, I had an example of somebody who I built their website and I did their SEO and they wanted to get me for social media. And I said, great. We had the meeting. I went down, like, the research I do, how I do, like, kind of ongoing competitive research to see what other people in the industry are doing. The designs I do, I come and do photography. Like, I broke it all down and then gave them the price. And when I did a follow-up after I hadn't heard from them, they said, oh, we're just going to get our intern to do it. And I said, great.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted me to discount it, and I was like, I can't. And they were
Have they ever worked with anyone else prior to you? Do you know? Are you aware of?
No.
Because that's another thing. If they don't have nothing to compare to, they don't know.
Well, and then so they said, well, actually, I think, we have an intern who she's pretty good on social media, so I think she's going to do it. And I said, great. And honestly, if that's going to work better for them, do it. Like, why should I be giving up my Friday nights, my, like, whatever, adding to my stress to work for $10 an hour? You know what I mean? When it comes down to it, I'm just no longer willing to do that. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because about 3 or 4 months later, they said, so, our intern just, like, didn't have enough time to do it. So they ended up hiring me. But I'm like, I might have, like, gone down to an amount that would have had me just, even if I said, like, okay, well, we'll just cut back this service or that service. I know who I am. And I'm like, I want to do a successful social media strategy. So I would have ended up doing that extra work regardless, just so that it performed well. So I was really happy that, like, I did stand up for what my rate is, and it ended up working out.
Well, that's what you, like, my close friend Sean was always kind of like, you have to be paid for your time. And then you really put in perspective for me. I make a very, very shitty hourly rate.
100%.
If people saw how much effort I put into them, and that's what goes back to where it really upsets me when people don't realize what you're doing, like, they don't know. They're not next to me seeing how many hours I'm putting in. If I actually broke down what I charge monthly and then how much work I actually put in, my hourly rate is worse than, like, a McDonald's. I would make more money per se working at McDonald's.
100%. Like, and that's, I'm really good friends with another digital marketer here in Calgary, actually. And we have this conversation and I'm just like, no, fuck that. I would rather go waitress tables than be handing out my digital marketing services to help somebody else's business grow so that they're getting more money, but they don't want to pay me. Like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. So like, it's just coming down to that. It's like, do it yourself then. Yeah. If you don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. And anyone that doesn't respect that, they're not worth your time anyways.
No.
Because, like, there are people who are honest and upfront being like, look, I can't afford this, but I'm not here trying to get a deal out of you. I just straight up cannot afford this, but I respect your time and your worth. But that's hard to come by.
Well, and the thing is, there are people like that. And I do always try to work with people. So then I say, well, I do offer coaching. So what if you did, like, 1 to 2 hours of coaching a month? And I just have, this is my hourly rate. Like, and it's not cheap, but it's more affordable. Get me for an hour, have your list of questions there. We can hammer through a ton of content in an hour.
Yeah.
And then, like, that at least helps direct you. Or, like, even in your example, like, how you were like, you almost just needed somebody like me to get you inspired again. And now you do your own social media and you've been doing, like, a fantastic job with it. It's your brand, your style. And it's completely re-inspired from where you were a year ago.
I will say it was a lot less stressful when you were doing it though.
Again, because it is a lot of work. Like, and I look at what you do and I'm like, damn,
yeah,
that boy be working.
Well, and the hard part about it is you put in all that work and then you get, so here's something though over the last, I'd say like month has really changed though. You put in all that work, and I think you were trying to teach me this prior to, and then you get like minimal likes, and you're like, that was going back to like the hourly rate. You're like, wow, I barely got engagement. But what I've come to learn is people may not be liking it, but they are seeing it. Because then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, I'll get, hey, I remember seeing one of your posts about XYZ, and you're like, oh, okay, so it did get noticed.
Totally.
Like there was something in there.
And also, I think you just have to get comfortable with like putting out content that you're happy with and being okay, like whether it gets 0 likes or 100 likes, just be okay with it regardless. I remember you being like messaging me with one post. You're like, this one's tanking. I'm like, dude, it's been up for 15 minutes. Like,
well, because it's hard to get out of that headspace. It's like a natural human reaction. Like we all do it. I do it. And I do it like times 10 or however many accounts I manage right now. It's like hard for me to sometimes mentally check out from that, because if a post goes up and I'm like, oh my God, that one only got 15 likes, and I fall into that cycle, even though I logically know that that's irrelevant. Like you kind of get panicked, and then I'm like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. They're going to be like, you're shit. Like, you know, we're our own worst enemies. And I think just love what you do, put the passion in, infuse that, add that touch of vulnerability, and build connections with social media. If people comment, like, don't like the comment. I hate that when I see like somebody just like the comment. It's like respond back, engage back. Why would you just expect people to engage with you and you're not offering it back? Like use it as an opportunity to start conversations, like get excitement going. Yeah. I remember you educating me on that as well. And you could definitely see sometimes you still get into that headspace though, whereas like you initially said when we first reconnected and everything, you're discouraged. Yeah. Like you're really discouraged because like you put all this effort forth, and especially for someone such as yourself, you know, helping others, because you're doing that for, as you mentioned, times 10 or more, it's very hard not to become discouraged.
Oh, 100%.
Right. And so it's funny too, because once again, when we're talking about that dopamine hit or whatever, I put in my dopamine series. I'll ask you too, like, what do you think is the best way to build dopamine?
Cocaine.
It's I always said there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer, but like the one that I'm looking for, what do you think is the best?
No, I would say like to build dopamine.
Yeah, don't think of like a vitamin or a mineral or anything. Think of like an act. I guess I could.
Well, I would say just walking outside.
Yeah, but it's no expectations. So if you will because we're talking about social media, if you create a post and you expect 50 likes and you get 15, it's going to make you feel pretty shitty. But if you expect 15 likes and you get 50 likes, I get that all the time. So when I posted that shall I say transformation of me where I had like all fat in the chin and everything, and the one you took of me laughing or whatever, that got a lot of engagement. But I was literally just posting that for the sake of being like, I'm proud of how far I've come. I didn't post that for like in hopes of getting engagement. It was just like, because when I saw that photo, I was like, I used to think I was sexy back then. And I'm like, I just look like this tub. Like to me, I look like this tub of lard. Yeah. And so I was happy with that post. And that posted really well. Yeah.
And I think also because you're like, that photo is probably a reminder, because I think it's always important to remember, like, people are always going to be different shapes and sizes and all of that. But you were also like an unhappy person in that photo. Yes. So I think just seeing the difference of even like your mental health on the journey you've come on has come such a far way.
Yeah. And once again, that goes back to people have no idea what you're going through. Right. Yeah. And it's like even though you mentioned like, yeah, you would like to connect with somebody that has been through something and seeing that transformation, but we don't understand the mental transformation.
No, like that's huge. And so for you, that's probably significant. Seeing that photo represents so much more than just a number on the scale. It's like where you were at in life. So that's like such a great story to share with your community.
Yeah. Which I think is another reason why I tend to throw out big words, is to place the emphasis on how much I have changed from that point to this point.
You should do like a big word nutrition spelling bee.
Yeah.
How many mics did you say we could hook up?
6 of them, yeah. Right? But I think, because like it's the same with with you like creating those reels. Until I went to create my own, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah,
this is a lot of work. And I probably put in half the effort that you did, because the effort that you put in over me was like the actual research. The effort that I would putting in was like copy, paste, splicing this, color editing, bring in photos, pop-ups, all this kind of stuff, but not researching how to hook people. Because that's what I'm starting to learn now is like, there's got to be that hook. There's got to be pattern change. There's got to be the music is even got to be the right choice. Hashtags.
Do you want to know one of like the best hooks to like really get great engagement?
Which?
Bringing it back to like the reason we care about engagement is, and that's the likes and all of that. Yes, I said it's a bit of a vanity, but also when you get that engagement, it tends to distribute it more. But posting something that's just completely like false information, you will not see people run to the comment section faster.
You want to know what I say? You want to get free information out of me? Say something wrong.
Yeah.
It triggers me every time.
Oh, and it's hilarious because I fall for it. So like,
Yeah.
It's funny because like I am a digital marketer and I mean, I'm pretty sure I got scammed the other week. And I'm like, damn it. Like you just fall into these traps. And like, after I'm like, that was good marketing.
Well, you wonder, is this person dumb or are they actually a genius?
But then you go read like you either run to the comment section and you see people like furiously correcting them.
Yeah.
Or you swipe to see what they actually have to say, or you read the caption. Like, boom, you spent so much more time on this one post than you would have if you just scrolled through and like.
But people are so triggered that they don't stop to read the caption. They instantly just go and be like, no, that's incorrect or whatever.
Like, it would be like, can you imagine if you made a post and it just said something like, I'll just pull something random out, but like, beef has been tied into being one of the #1 contributors to schizophrenia. Like the way that your head would spin around on your body and you would be like in that comment section.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and it's true. And like, I love, it's like, so funny that you brought that up.
Hook, line, sinker.
It's so funny that you brought that up because that's exactly it. It's incorrect. I've said that for years. You want to get free information out of me? Say something wrong. It happened this morning before you showed up. This lady was like saying, because she's got these crazy adrenal issues. She's got like the doctor saying she's got vitamin B6 toxicity. And I said, when somebody says something like that, that's because they have no idea what's going on with you. So they're blaming something which is wildly inaccurate, right? But because it was so wildly inaccurate, here I am messaging this. This is why I'm running around getting ready before you showed up, because I spent all my time trying to educate this woman that's wildly inaccurate.
Keyboard warrior
right?
over there.
maybe she made that up. Maybe the doctors didn't actually say that, and she's saying that. Doubtful, but that's an example.
So, like, perfect idea though, how you can incorporate that. Obviously, you don't want to just be putting out like farce information. Yeah. So it's like you put that as the line. Now they're in your caption, and you just say like, you know, blah blah blah, and you can actually you correct it, right? You tie it in, you correct it. And then you provide the information, but it's like you hooked them so strongly, and now they're in there and they're in your post and they're reading and they're learning, and they don't even know that they're doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got them so fast, they didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's not doing I mean, sometimes it's appropriate, like read the caption for more info, but you got to get creative sometimes to not just constantly like be like, read the caption, like this post. Like that gets obnoxious. Another good one is like to say, you know, vote on which one you prefer by dropping an emoji into the comments or, you know, stuff like you can just be more creative than vote in the comments by dropping an emoji or. Well,
another one, my friend Logan, he was getting big into social media there, and it worked really well because now I'm like, you're not posting much. He's like, I don't got time. He's like, I got really busy. But I remember he said one of his biggest ones was he started off by saying these 3 exercises were banned in the Olympics or something along the lines of that nature. So it was like that. That's what really drew me into hooks. That's why, you know, I'll start off by saying it's still obviously a ton of work in progress, but I'll start off. I'll be like ADHD, because everybody's got ADHD. So as soon as I or my brain thinks, as soon as this individual
like
reads
my
or
eyes
hears,
could never roll farther back into my head. But
okay, why? See, now you got to educate me.
Because I feel like everyone and their dog claims to have ADHD nowadays, and to an extent, we probably all do. But I feel like people are just running out to get like the ADHD medication.
See, but that's why I thought me yelling ADHD would be the hook.
No, and I agree. Like that's perfect.
Oh, okay,
it's just like the whole ADHD topic. I'm like,
Well, I've had this conversation with many people. I remember I had a client one time where she's like, I just want to go get diagnosed, so I have an excuse. That's pretty much it. And that's what people want. They want an identity and they want a reason for why they are the way they are, rather than taking responsibility for the way they are and fixing who they are.
I mean, I just want Vyvanse so that I can lose a few pounds.
There's all that, weight loss. Right? There's that too. They want that drug. And I've been there myself. I have done Vyvanse. I've done Ritalin, Adderall, Dexedrine. There was a fourth one I can't remember. But they're all methamphetamines. They're all the same mechanism. But that's exactly it. You want to go get diagnosed so you can be like, oh, hey, I have this. Yeah. So when your boss yells at you, I have this. Or when your relationship is falling apart, oh, I'm bipolar. So this is my ex. I'm bipolar. You need to go read a book. I have a bipolar book over there. Now that I understand what bipolar is, it's, first of all, it's dopamine, right? But it's like, well, no, you need to take responsibility for this. Not I need to go read a book.
Well, and I just, of course, there are people out there that actually have ADHD or all of these things, like any mental health condition. And I don't want to minimize that because
we're definitely not negating that.
There is 100% like there is, but I feel like sometimes things get trendy just because like there'll be a TikTok on it and people start taking that as the absolute truth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think it can become problematic. Like it's like, how I know, like how you might know you have ADHD, like you leave your cupboard doors open.
Oh, I do that.
Or you're just a busy person. But you know what I mean? Like there could be other reasons, but like people are like, oh, well, I do that. So like I must have ADHD, and we get this like self-diagnosis because it's like right now trending on
WebMD,
TikTok.
And WebMD,
and again, not that there's like a place for that, and not that it's not a real condition. Absolutely not like discrediting that, but it just seems like things can get really
well. And so like what I kind of mean on that perspective is, okay, yes, I leave the covers open. Oh, I must have ADHD. And then it stops there. Or it's like I have ADHD, so yes, let's go get the medication. Then it stops there. So we have taken care of my ADHD because I'm now taking Vyvanse, but we're not going to take into account my adrenals, my adrenaline, my gut health, my microbiome. That's the problem that I have. It stops there.
It's like, okay, your ADHD is covered. Now you have anxiety.
Yeah, right? Oh, you covered your anxiety. Now you have depression. You covered your depression. Now you can't have a bowel movement or a sex drive.
Full circle, like Vyvanse. Now you lost weight, depression medication, right? And it's just
now
like
back to Vyvanse.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always been and it's a personal opinion, but I'm a huge believer in natural medicine first. I think healing your body, and with our kind of Western medicine, it's always Band-Aid solutions.
And that's what I educate people on that is the thing we have to accept though, that is the reality. So I used to talk shit about doctors. They went to school and spent thousands of dollars and years of stressing themselves out to literally Band-Aid our symptoms. That's the point of Western medicine. It is not designed to heal the root cause. And I've come to accept that because there are times when using a Band-Aid will help you heal the root cause. So I don't demonize it anymore. But when you only rely on that, and then you don't believe in what you believe in, like the natural way of healing things, then it's kind of like, all right, we need to have a conversation about this.
Totally.
Right.
I agree.
So but I also see, I was mentioning to you, like the Facebook groups, it's sad what you see. Like, for example, like if this doctor is actually telling this woman that you're suffering from vitamin B6 toxicity, and so this is what you need to do. And reality, she's eating 1,100 calories. Most of those calories are vegetables, so they're empty calories. And then you're wondering why.
That's a lot of fucking vegetables.
Yeah, right? But the doctor's telling you it's a B6 toxicity. So now that you're solely focused on this B6 toxicity, you are ignoring everything else. Yeah. And you have spent so much time diving down rabbit holes to do with B6 toxicity that you're completely ignoring the most obvious solution. Like I put out on my Instagram, I said, and I'll ask you this too, what's the best supplement one could take? What do you think is the best supplement out there?
I mean, it's hard to pick just one.
You're already overthinking it.
I know. I would just go with personally, I would go with omega-3.
A chill pill. A goddamn chill pill is the best supplement you could ever take because 90% of people's problems are stress.
But then let's tie it back to what you were saying earlier, that it's been proven that creativity and working under that stress.
So it's all about stress management. So it's all about that balance, as you say. It's all about stress management. Stress is inevitable. So people get upset when I say it's their stress. Because like, what am I supposed to do? I have kids to raise. I never negated that. We have to improve your stress management. One way by improving your stress management is stop Googling B6 toxicity, right? Take a chill pill.
Yeah.
Take some deep breaths, right? Come to a calm space in your environment. Now you can more rationally and logically think and possibly begin to understand that, oh, maybe it's not B6 toxicity, right? Maybe it's the fact that I'm freaking out over everything. Or maybe it is the fact that I'm only eating 1,100 calories, or the fact that I lost 160 pounds rapidly using keto. There's going to be some repercussions to that, but we don't think about that because we're so stressed out over this one thing. So like that goes back to me. Angela, why it's been 15 minutes and I only have one like, right? You're so stressed out. You're not seeing the bigger picture that if you go look, as you mentioned, you compare the followers to the actual engagement. And when you said that, I even showed you Alan Kress's account. You're like, he's got how many followers? 50,000, and he's only got 50 likes.
Yeah.
It's a really poor ratio. Where I have 900, how many are actual real followers with the same amount of likes?
Exactly.
That's a significantly larger
even
ratio.
If you were to get 20 likes and have 900 followers,
still a higher ratio.
50 to 20,000, like, you start doing the math, and that's...
Yep. So as soon as I took a goddamn chill pill and listened to you...
Okay, so we're chill pill and no expectations. So this could also transfer over to a dating podcast.
Yeah, right. I talked about it in the last one. I gotta talk about that actually. Okay, so here's what I learned from a psychology perspective when we're talking about dating, because a lot of people are like saying dating apps ruin dating and all this kind of stuff, and because we've mentioned dopamine. And so here's how you look at it. And if you were to walk into a store and you had 5 jams to choose from, you're going to ask a couple questions and you're probably going to taste test those jams, but you're ultimately going to end up going home with a jam because you came in for a jam.
I mean, I like a variety of jams.
So there's that aspect too, non-monogamous. But anyways, so when you walk into a store and there are 500 jams to choose from, you are going to be overwhelmed and you're going to have what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. So you're not going to know what jam to choose. And ultimately, that being that overwhelming sensation, you're just going to not choose a jam. You're going to be like, screw this. It's the same with picking a movie or Uber Eats. Or what happens, we end up picking one, but because there was that potential of 499 other jams, if this jam does not live up to what you thought, you're going to go for that next jam, or you're going to think I could have chosen a better jam.
Or you're going to try sampling all of them. You're going to forget which one you like.
Exactly. And then you're going to be in this one. So that's that jam.
In there.
So that jam analogy, that was, I can't remember the psychologist's name.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like that's a great way of putting it. I mean, I've sampled a few jams in my day, but
yeah, exactly.
It's so true because it is very overwhelming, and it's like not like you're the one person and you're picking. It's like also those 500 other jams are now trying to be paired with 500 peanut butters, or you know what I mean? So it's like, what are the chances that it's...
When it goes back to that, to taking a chill pill, nobody's perfect. Everybody's got flaws. And so someone's going to do something.
Speak for yourself.
something. You and my friend Sean are the same way like that. You pick something, you see a slight flaw, right? I keep using this. My dogs sleep on the bed. That was the flaw for this one woman. So everything else I could have done that could have been good for this person was negated because they solely focused on the fact that the dog slept on the bed. Now, my pushback to that was relationships are about compromising. Right. So anyways, dating podcast, this is all relating back to the same idea of taking a chill pill and going back to digital marketing and everything, because it goes, like you said, I would freak out. Okay, Angela, why am I not getting so many likes? And you're like, just calm down. Right. First of all, not every single post is going to do good. You've always said that.
Yeah.
But at least having those posts.
It's always like, look at this month compared to like a year or two ago.
What was my thing? 800% increase.
Yeah.
So we got banned or whatever happened there because they thought I was using a bot because it went from 0 to 800% increase when you took over my social media.
Which is, I mean, it's natural to see. I always kind of like am scared to show people the stats after the first month because it's crazy how when you start posting consistently, you start engaging, doing all of the things, how fast your social media can increase.
It's like losing 10 pounds your first week of a diet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to stay consistent because you're going to see that like 800% increase or 500% increase or whatever it is. But then the next month it's going to be maybe 5% increase. And you're like, 5%, like that sucks. Mm-hmm. Perfect example with the weight loss. It's like you lose that initial 10 pounds and then the next week you're like at 1 or 2 pounds and you get discouraged. Yeah. But it's like that small, it's like, you know, that small amount over, you keep up with the consistency over time, you will see a huge change and you'll see a huge impact on your business. Yep. It's like consistency is key.
Yeah, that's what I say. Is now like consistency of doing the right thing, obviously, because you know, but it's also trusting the process.
Totally.
Which a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't trust. And I don't blame them for not trusting. But that goes back to the goddamn chill pill.
It goes back to the dating website.
That too. Yeah, I could. But it's just that's why I say the best supplement you could take is a chill pill and just breathe. Just take deep breaths. And ultimately that was going back to part of where I mentioned, like you lit that fire under my ass because you also taught me, because like you say it yourself, you sit here and you preach to people, but then you're a hypocrite in a sense because you do the opposite or whatever. It's different when it's your own thing. You said the mechanic's car and whatnot. So you taught me that. It's like, take a deep breath, which is what I tell all my clients, and realize like, look, just keep posting. It'll happen. And it did. It eventually did. It was just a matter of continuing.
Because like I said, now you've taken over your social account again and you're doing a great job. And you're going to have times where you do get disheartened or like you lose a client and you think, oh, I suck at this. You just have to keep that consistency and, you know, zoom out a little bit, look at the big picture. Because a lot of times we're so zoomed in, we have like these blinders on and we just see like what's in the now. When we zoom out, we can see like the growth over time. So that's just what I always encourage people to do. And like, again, trust the process and the consistency part. Like that's why I have the job I do. Is a lot of people, I don't try to pretend like I'm reinventing the wheel. Anyone can do social media, but it does take time and it takes consistency. And if you are better focused on a different area, let's say you're a hairdresser and you're amazing at hair and you hate the computer and stuff, why not like let somebody like myself who loves that take that burden away from you and let you focus on doing what you love.
Yeah. And so like, I think I agree with you, but I think anyone has the potential, not that anyone can do social media, has the potential.
It was a generalization.
So going back to what you say, like if I were to take the time and put all my time forth to, because what I lack is creativity. I lack that creativity. Now I can learn that creativity, but that's why I hired you, was because that's your job, was to be creative. That's how I took it in anyways, because that's what I wanted. To
generate ideas, to come up with strategy. Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a huge element of it. To come up with creative ways to stand out. Yeah, and that's I'll just throw this in quick because I know you mentioned ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's a great tool and I think it's a great support. I would never recommend that people fully rely on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have no idea what the full potential eventually will unlock, but it's funny because I mean, a lot of people won't notice, but like I've already noticed which accounts are strictly just going off of ChatGPT. Like
I think Instagram does too.
Because you can tell by all of a sudden like the way they're writing, and I'm like, you're no longer sounding like the tone of that business, right? Because they'll never fully replace. I mean, it is a great tool, and I'm not going to tell people not to use it because that's just technology evolving. I use it, but I still greatly modify everything because it's the creative element that makes you as a brand unique.
You know, something funny. So I had a podcast with the gym owner, King's Fitness, Leo King, and I was like rushing. So I was like, okay, well, can I get this to summarize or pick out like a really key piece of information that I could use to turn into an Instagram reel. And so I did it because ChatGPT has the add-on to Chrome, the extension where it'll take the transcript and then it summarizes it, but that's not what I was looking for. So I took the YouTube address, like the URL, and I said, can you please summarize this YouTube video using the URL? And I put it in there and it said, yep, sure, here you go. And what it was, I guess I was interviewing Barack Obama. That's what I thought. I thought it was
Barack was here? Oh.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Well, they always say what is it, 5 people away from knowing everyone?
Right? And so I was like, okay, this shows the imperfections of something like ChatGPT. And it's funny that you said where you noticed people, like you could tell their writing changed. The least engagement I got in my posts is when I got ChatGPT to write my captions.
Well, and it's funny because guaranteed, Google's AI and all of that is going to start detecting if people are using it to write. I shouldn't say guaranteed. My theory is that Google will start picking up because I think a lot of things will start to be very similar to other blog posts, for example.
Yeah.
And my guess would be that the Google algorithm will eventually start picking that up and recognizing it as AI. I mean, I have no idea. That's such a different topic.
Well, universities are doing that. Universities have we'll call it a detector.
Well, yeah, to make sure their students aren't. Because, again, it's a great tool that can assist us, but it's, the creative tone of a specific brand or person, how can it truly encapsulate that?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. There's no consciousness.
But I mean, I don't even want to open that can of worms because we'll be here for 3 hours.
Yeah, that is a big one. So with your line of work, even though I don't like to focus on negatives, what would you say is the most difficult part of it?
Of digital marketing itself, I think, there's so many parts that are challenging. One is the mental aspect, because again, I manage about 10 social media accounts right now, to keep your head on straight and not get discouraged. Because I feel like, think of all the stress you have when you make one post and it doesn't do well, but then taking that stress on and multiplying it by 10, because I am very passionate about what I do and I care so much about each of my clients. Even though sometimes they piss me off, but and as you know, I'm very transparent about all of it, but it's because I care so much that I feel so involved. And so it does become my own. And so if something's not performing well, it wears on me, no matter where I'm at in my life. The other part is having a small business. And if people don't pay, which has been a problem before, I could tell a really funny story.
By the way, she's not getting at me.
No,
a lot of other stuff she has been, but not this far.
You've been very good. I shouldn't even tell the story, actually. I'll tell that one after. It's a good one.
Well, you can tell it and cut it out.
Oh, well, I'll tell you later. But money is such a funny thing because a lot of people don't like talking about money. And I'm quite transparent with money. If people ask me how much you make or this or that or whatever.
You think it's a symbol status? They don't like talking about it?
I think so. I think we just were always I don't know about you, but I was raised you don't talk about politics. You don't talk about money. Mm-hmm. You don't talk about religion. There was 3, something like that.
No, I wasn't raised like that.
There was a few people who didn't get the religion memo, but
yeah, fair enough.
I'm just kidding. But so, there's kind of this stigma about money and that you should never really talk about it or whatever. I've always been quite transparent, but it is something that's still hard to, if somebody hasn't paid you, to be hey, you still owe me from 2 months ago or whatever. Because it makes me feel like I'm being greedy or that I'm so focused on the money or that I'm just in it for the money, which I'm really not. I'm in it because I love what I do and I'm really passionate about it. But at the end of the day, it's my business and pay me my fucking money.
We're talking about essentially chasing money for people. That is very discouraging, obviously, and a hard part of the job. Is this something that you have to do often?
I've definitely had to do it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So it's just it gives me the ick a little bit, but I just wish people would pay on time, especially as a new business. I'm not rolling in the dough always. I'm still trying to invest in new equipment and stuff. So I don't have just fluid finances. So it is something that can be definitely challenging.
Yeah. Why don't you have an automatic withdrawal system?
I don't know, Curtis.
The only problem with those is the fees.
Yeah. Well, PayPal's and stuff.
PayPal's okay, but Stripe, because PayPal, I don't know if PayPal has a subscription thing yet. I know it's coming.
Yeah.
But I was using Stripe, but there were so many fees.
Well, and again, coming back to like, I work with small businesses. So some give me like checks still, or you know what I mean? I just like to be flexible.
Yeah.
I have definitely learned a couple of hard lessons. One is always needing to take that deposit, even if you think people are, you have a good relationship with them or whatever. Like it's, again, you feel, I guess it's just like for myself, like it feels like a struggle around the financial aspect of it, like of asking for money. But I'm learning to detach and be like, this is my setup, like 50% up front for a website, this deposit for like social media, whatever. And then going with it because it can really screw you. Yeah.
Well, you know who screwed me over the most? Men. Like men have. Like I've had what I thought were good friends.
Are you talking about dating again? No.
I'm not there yet. I'm not that desperate yet. That I just, they never paid me. I've created the plan for them and everything, thinking, oh, well, they're a good friend. They won't, and they've never paid me.
And that's the ones that usually screw you the most, is the ones that you've built. Like, I had a situation where I felt like we had developed, I met them through, they hired me, but we had built a pretty good relationship, and then kind of out of nowhere. So again, we don't know what's going on. Like they could have stuff going on in their personal life and whatever. So I've kind of like let it go. It's all cleared up now. It's all good. For the most part, all of my clients are amazing. Mm-hmm. Like now I have all just amazing clients. So there's really nothing too negative about it, but I always find that that's like the uncomfortable thing. You want to be working with, like, willing to help people and work with them. We can make payments or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that take advantage of that system that really kind of ruin it for the rest of them. So
yeah. Well, and you mentioned too, like, because you do take on the emotion of people, because I know that's a struggle with my profession is, somebody said the exact same thing. If a post doesn't do good, you start to take that on. If somebody checks in and they didn't get the results that we were looking for that week, I take that on as well. What have you found that works for you to kind of separate the two? Or is that something you're still really working on?
I think like I just always try to take it in the approach where I tell my clients, like, if there's ever anything going on or, let's always be transparent with each other. I always want to be able to be that person that they can come talk to. So that if they are, let's say, having a bad month and they can't pay me, like, well, maybe we can break it into 2 payments just till you catch up or whatever. So I think the hard part is when I don't get that communication, because I try to be a clear communicator and I try to be a very open, like I tell you, what you see is what you get. And you've experienced that as well. Like I've been very blunt with you before, but it's like, that this is my issue. We get through it. We move on and that's it. Mm-hmm. You're not like, it would be worse if I just like stopped. It's like ghosting, right? You get ghosted in business and that's just a really hard thing. And honestly, I don't even really have advice for it because I think it's just a shitty thing to experience.
So is that something where, because here's from my perspective, you feel like you've had good friendships with people and they've ghosted you. And now to you, it's like, it's not that it's okay, but it's not like, I'm not going to let that ruin a friendship, but they're too scared to reach out. Have you ever encountered that? Or like just absolutely in the end, friendships have been ruined because you got involved with business?
I mean, I would say friendships in one situation were pretty much ended because I think I'm a huge person on respect. And I think if I've put all this time in to do work for you and you're just going to try to ghost me, or after I've reached out and tried to be as accommodating as possible to say like, hey, would it be easier if we made a payment plan? Would it be easier if we did this? Do you want to sit down and talk? Like if I've made all of those efforts and you're still going to ghost me, and like, there is like that for me, like I don't have a solution because that is an overwhelming amount of stress in my life. Mm-hmm. It makes me second guess myself. It makes me second guess my work. Like, were they not happy? And so I try to say, was there something that you want to change? And if I'm still getting ghosted, it affects me. That's just bottom line. It affects me.
Yeah. And it sucks. Like losing a friendship, or like there's obviously boundaries with clients. Like you can't be their best friend because then they take advantage of you, but you still do develop friendships. Like you have to have a good business in this
marketing
industry.
In a nutshell. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, marketing is so easy at the core. It is just building relationships. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. So I've always been good at like making friends and meeting people and building relationships. So of course all of my clients become my friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's just who I am as a person. My boyfriend always jokes, he's like, you can't leave the house without like coming back with like a new friend.
Yeah. Well, and that's what makes it so difficult, I think, then, because you
100%.
don't want to, you understand that this individual may not be able to continue for whatever reason, or that there's going to be hardships involved working with somebody, but to ultimately see a friendship ruined. Like I've gone spans where then I've reached out to people and they're like, oh, I'm so happy you reached out, because they were too scared to reach out because they thought the thing was ruined. And I didn't know that until I just, whatever sort of possessed me to reach out to these individuals. And that's what kind of ultimately sucks. Yeah. Or it ultimately sucks is like you could have important people in your life, but then they do things like screw you over. This is not speaking from experience. I've like, when I say like these people don't pay me, I wouldn't look at it as screwed over. Like it is what it is. I'm the idiot who didn't get paid up front, didn't get the deposit before making the plan. Right. But if you've had people who screwed you over, you don't want to dislike them, but they screwed you over.
Yeah, it's a very tough spot to be at. Like, even in the situation I'm referring to, I loved them as people, and I still do. But it's just like my guard is up, and it's like, how do you go back? Because I feel like he disrespected me in such a way. Like, this is my livelihood. This is how I'm keeping a roof over my head. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, communication. Why couldn't you have just communicated?
100%.
Like what you're experiencing and the reason that this is happening, why couldn't you just, there's always a solution to something. You just have to communicate.
And again, like I said earlier, to bring it full circle, like I'm all about like winning. Everybody wins. Like I'm not about this I win, you lose. Like I hate that mentality. I think that there can be situations where it's like win for everybody. And that's what I strive to infuse in my business. Like that's basically like the, I guess, underlying principle or like mission statement, you know, like I want it to be a win for everybody, for me, for you, like for whoever the client is, like everybody needs to win.
Yeah.
And be happy with it. So,
yeah. So where was there a defining moment where it kind of like your business just suddenly propelled forward, or has it always been like a gradual increase, or was there something in there that was like, whether it was a specific client that got you lots of exposure, or it was
that
just
money under the front door mat?
Yeah.
But I'm not even really kidding. Like that was such a pivotal moment. I think I had just been spending so much time on manifesting and goal setting, and whether you believe in that or not, I do. And I think, you know, it's because I put my focus and I put my energy into it, but it started like, it really just kind of took off, and I didn't have to even advertise, or I've always just 100% basically gone on referrals.
Yeah.
So,
well, and even what you did, like I said, it obviously worked for me because that's how like nobody referred me to you. You
found me through the social. So there's two ways: is either a referral or people follow me on social media and reach out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting too because it goes back to like, you know, in my profession, it's like some people just are not ready to be helped right now, and it was the same. Like when I saw you, it was more of a reminder. Not like learning, like it was like, oh yeah, she does this. Well,
I think like when you first reached out, like that was like a knee jerk to seeing it, like you said, a reminder to yourself. And then you kept kind of like getting scared or like unsure or whatever, because like I said, I don't think you were at like maybe a lower point in dealing with your business, and you were like frustrated. And I mean, I would hope that I just offered that support and encouragement, because I remember saying to you, like 6 months from now, you'll be happy that you started today. And even like 6 months, like this has completely evolved, and now you're doing like podcasting. And, but I feel like even just talking to you now, you're in such a better place than you were probably 6 months ago.
Oh, 100%.
Whenever we started.
100%. Right. And that's what I mean by like lighting the fire under my ass kind of thing. But like, it goes back to that where you're saying the consistency. You post on social media and you have it there. So now it's always in the back of my mind. So when I did come to that point of where I was like, okay, I have to do something, you were there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same reason when people go, like, you know, I have a coworker, for example, that's sick or whatever. Okay, well, give them my card. Well, they can't afford you. And I was like, for starters, how do you know they can't afford me? You'd be surprised. It's like people that would be like, oh, I can't afford to do that. And then we run a GI map and there's red all over the GI map, and then all of a sudden they have unlimited money, right?
Yeah.
It's just they needed that incentive. But so, okay, first of all, you don't know whether they can afford me or not. Secondly, you could give me an opportunity to, I always call it plant the seed. So I could have this conversation with them. right? We could create a report. We could maybe like each other. 3-4 months down the road, husband gets a promotion or they stumble into inheritance. Just an example is all I'm saying.
They get their tax return.
They get their tax return. All of a sudden, oh, hey, remember, I had this conversation, but with the consistent social media posting, I'm always going to be on their mind.
100%.
So when they do get that tax return or whatever, because that's like kind of like what it was. It wasn't like a tax return, but it was like, I know I need to do something now. I know I need to improve my social media, but because not only did I know you, so we had an established relationship, but you were also posting on social media, and then bam, one day it popped up. It was like being there at the right moment kind of idea.
Totally. And that's the biggest thing is like social media is great for staying in the forefront and for building relationships. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it should be your main funnel for like driving sales per se always. It's more about like fostering and growing your audience and expanding like your networking skills, right?
So let's talk about that, because that's something that you always said to me was the funnel. And I totally understand it at this point now. Like my objective in my brain anyways is to funnel to my YouTube now, because I really enjoy doing like this. Yeah. I like to funnel to this, not in terms of like a revenue grab. That's where I'm now doing other things. But I like the funnel analogy or the actual, specifics of funneling. So let's explain to people like what is funneling.
So I'll just kind of break it into the simplest format when it comes to the funnel, because it does get a lot more granular. But basically there's tofu, mofu, and bofu. I love saying those. That's why I threw it in. But so tofu is top of the funnel. So this is for people who don't even know about your brand. They have no idea that you even exist. How will you reach them? And how will you market to them? Mofu is middle of the funnel. So this is for people who know who you are. They've discovered you, but they haven't quite been convinced yet that they want to purchase your product or that they believe in your services. And then Bofu is bottom of the funnel. So these are people who are, ready to make that flip and hire you. So for back to top of the funnel, social media is great for this, especially if you do like a boosted social media ad, you're reaching an audience, or reels are great for this, like to just really extend beyond your already current following, because you're trying to grab other people. Or SEO is another great top of the funnel, because people who are searching, health Calgary or whatever, if you're coming up in there, they had no idea that you existed, or even maybe what functional health is. But then they see you, they find your website. So that's the top of the funnel. It's a really wide net you're casting to try to just get those people that don't know about you to learn about your service. Middle is people that are already now following you, but maybe need more education. They need more knowledge on what you offer or why it would be beneficial, how it would fit into their life. Again, social media is perfect for this. On your website, like it could be like blog posts where they're learning more. Maybe it's talking about like gut, right? Gut
could
health.
This be YouTube as well, the middle one there? Okay.
Yeah, YouTube. Okay. And YouTube could be top as well.
Okay.
And then that bottom of the funnel is more, this is where you're really trying to make that sale. So it could be like an offer, like a special offer, like, 4 months of coaching for the price of 3. That would be like a deal to just like pull the trigger. Okay. Or like free consultation, pull the trigger. Oh, it's free. Like I'm going to do that. So now they've converted because they've actually signed up. They've signed up for the consultation. Or like another, you like put me on the spot here. I'm trying to think of examples.
Could that be like known as a hook as well? That bottom of the funnel, could we like kind of call that a hook, or would that be a different perspective?
I think that would be considered different, because the hook is more to get them to stop the scroll to get them off. So like bottom of the funnel would be just like a review would be another example. So on your website, remember how I said we want to put the reviews before the contact form, because maybe they're like, know what you're doing now, and they're like, have thought about converting, but they just haven't quite pulled the trigger yet. And then boom, they read these testimonials and they're like, holy shit, this guy actually knows what he's doing. I want this. Let's sign up. They email you, they convert. Okay. So those are like ways at the bottom of the funnel. Cause like, it would be like reading a review about, like if you had the review rate at the top, it's like, well, nobody even knows what the service is. So it's irrelevant, right? That's more of like the bottom. So when I say social media, you should have a variety, because you probably have people on your social media that are maybe ready to convert, but there's also people that have no idea who you are. Okay. So you kind of always want to keep like a good mix of the material.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. So
it was a little bit jumbled, but like
no, that definitely makes sense.
Explain it.
So it's almost like you're casting the net, you caught the fish, you're filleting it, now you're cooking it, and then you're eating it.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I guess prior to that question, I guess maybe I don't fully understand the funneling aspect, but now I do.
Yeah. So like, and I think that was a huge problem with what your social media was, you know, a year ago, is like, you were just like diving right into like all of this information and this detailed. And it's like, you know, if I don't even like the look of a car, why would I want to know all the specs about it?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So you're sort of like, you're kind of like getting people excited about the idea, enticing them to learn. You're kind of nurturing that friendship, that relationship. And then, so an example of a conversion, because you're trying to funnel people to the YouTube, would be to get somebody from Instagram off of Instagram to YouTube. Mm-hmm. That would be an example of like, if that's your goal, that would be the conversion, is when they're leaving Instagram and going to YouTube.
Okay.
Clicking the link. So you're drawing the attention, then you're letting them know that they can get more information, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Go over to the YouTube.
Yeah. That's why I turn my, when I make a YouTube video, in most cases, I try to turn it into a reel.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and then I do the whole link in bio and tag it to my story.
Do you like
with the link.
snippets, like the highlight snippets, parts that you think will get people's attention, that are like maybe the funny parts, because people love like humor. Mm-hmm. If you can grasp the funny parts or the highlights, put that into a reel and then send them to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole podcast, like that's perfect.
Yeah, and that's why, like I saw, because I told you before, like I hit on my watch is like an important thing, whether it's something I have to cut out, but I hate it when you start talking about the funnel. I could see your face change kind of. It's that to me is like, that's why I did that, because now this is something that I probably going to take a snippet out of and use that as the real kind of idea. So
of my face going crazy.
No, just talking about the funnel.
Right? It's one of those things where I'm like trying to summarize something that's so hard to summarize into a short snippet.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. I just thought like the reason I asked that is because I am beginning to obviously understand it more now, but I saw the value, like the way you did initially explain it. I saw the value and it was like, oh, this is why we're doing this. Because obviously, like even in my profession, understanding the why really helps someone commit to something or come to better terms with something that they may not fully understand.
Well, and it's funny too, because it goes beyond just like the funnel. Then there's actually like the reverse funnel underneath. So I'll try to think of a good example of myself. Before Christmas, I was looking for a gift for my partner, and one of these Our Place pots came on, and it was like gorgeous skillet, like woman-owned company. So I found it from a Facebook ad or a Instagram ad, a boosted post, sponsored post, whatever you want to call it. And so that was me at the top of the funnel. Had never heard of this company. It pulled me in. Then I went on their Instagram and I kind of looked and I was like reading at posts, all of this. And so I was like, oh, this actually sounds really cool. Like it's like a lightweight skillet, like non-toxic, whatever, like blah, 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 blah. And they come in really pretty colors. Like you can get like soft pink, beige, like
really?
They're cool. And so, you know, now I'm like middle of the funnel because I'm learning about the product. Okay. And then they had a sale where it was like 20% off. So that would be bottom of the funnel because like I'd learned about it, but I hadn't quite converted. But then 20% off came up and I was like, boom, bought it. So now I converted, right? That conversion happened. So that's how I moved down the funnel. But now I'm still on their social media because I started following them. So now we talk about after the funnel.
Okay.
And this is sometimes where email marketing comes into play. Maybe you get an email where it's like an additional offer, you know, enjoy 15% off your next purchase. The social media continues to like nurture me as an audience member by feeding me more information. It shows me different products. Like now they have a pot and I'm like, well, damn, like I kind of want the pot. Like, you know what I mean? So then they continue the cycle. So now I might not just be a one-time client because they didn't just get my money and then dump me and go. If that makes sense. If
you're a plant, the social media is the water and the 20% discounts the fertilizer. Is that how you could look at it?
We're getting way too.
Because that's how I kind of like thought about it then, the way you said that.
Say that again.
Is okay, because we'll use the words nourishing. So if you're a plant, their social media was watering you, right?
Sure.
And then the 20% off discount was throwing the fertilizer at you. So now you're really invested in this. You're really growing into it. That was like the heavy hitter was the 20% discount, essentially, is what I'm saying. That was what drew you
That
in?
would be what caused me to convert.
Yeah. So that was
that little like extra.
So that
push.
was the bottom of the funnel.
I mean, yes, that's the bottom of the funnel. So like another example would have been like, if I read a review that was like, oh my God, this pan replaced like 5 other pans in my kitchen. Like now I just use this one pan and it's great. It's so easy to clean, blah, blah, blah. That would also potentially convert me because I hate cleaning pans. Like when like they get shit stuck on them, it's literally the worst in this pan. The eggs slide right off. Like it's like an infomercial. So that like the fact that it's women owned, but like, so when I read that in a review, like somebody's anecdotal experience, like I'm like, damn, yeah, I do want it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, like reviews are one of the most beneficial thing you can do as your online presence, like for your online presence for your brand. People will take reviews. Might butcher this stat, but it's like 80% of people will believe an online review as much as they would believe like getting a review from a friend. So like you going online and reading like a review saying how this place has the best tacos, you will believe that as much as you would believe it if I said to you, hey, Curtis, this place has good tacos. You got to go. So it's very, very valuable to get reviews from people who have had positive experiences. And if you ever get a bad review, like especially with Google, you can't just delete it. Respond and engage. And like I always say, like address it, acknowledge it, and take it offline. Nobody wants to like see you get in a fight with somebody who's unhappy online, but they also want to see how you're handling it. So you could be like, this doesn't go with our typical protocol of how we, of the service we normally offer. We're sorry that you had this experience with us. We would love to make it right. Why don't you give us a call during our office hours? So it's like you didn't discredit them, but you also like you said, this isn't our normal way of handling things, but you didn't say that's not how we do things. There's no way that happened. Like you still gave them the benefit of the doubt, but rather than like fight about it or explain it online.
Well, you validated them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a funny story on that. But one thing for me, in my personal experience, reviews, yes, but it's the discount. Like you want me sold, it's the discount. Because I'll read a review and I'll hum and haw. But if it's like 20% off, I'm like, hell yeah.
And everybody's different, right? There's going to be different strokes for different folks, but
yeah. Well, so I would always order from this Domino's pizza, and every pizza I will ever order will be requested extra pizza sauce. And pizza places are so bad for giving me extra pizza sauce. And it goes back to that. So I expect extra pizza sauce. I don't get extra pizza sauce. I get pissed, right? So one time I was like, I had enough of this. I've requested like 7 or 8 times. And so I put a 1-star review. I said, I got minimal toppings, and I was just in that Karen mode, right?
Yeah.
So then that's exactly they apologized, and they said, we'll email you, and they got me a free pizza.
Yeah.
And so they said, but you have to phone in, right, to make it work. So I phoned in and I said, hey, here it is. I said, but please don't forget the toppings and the extra pizza sauce. They no, we got you. So I go pick it up and I bring it home. I go to bite into it. It was like pizza sauce exploded everywhere. There's toppings falling all over the place. They went from one extreme to the next or whatever, but I loved it. And so I went back and I fixed my review and I gave them a 5-star review.
Exactly.
Right after that.
That's a perfect example where it's like, if they had responded and been rude, like, well, if you don't like our pizza sauce, go elsewhere. You would have been like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Or if they just like completely disregarded like your review, other people that are coming are like, oh, like they don't listen to the details, or they're not going to take our instructions. They could be deterred by your review.
Yeah.
Had it been left up, had they just ignored you, because you would have never gone back and changed it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you probably honestly would have just forgot about it.
Yeah. No, that's powerful information right there. Like for someone like me anyways.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's very
Reviews
powerful.
are so important. They're huge.
I think sometimes
good reviews too. Don't ignore the good reviews. Like I'm like respond to every review should be responded to, because if somebody's taken the time to shout out your business, they deserve like personalized acknowledgement. Don't just be like, thanks.
Yeah.
Like be like, thanks, Linda. It was such a great experience working with you, and it was so great to see the transformation in your life, or whatever. But, they've taken the time out of their day to do this for you and your business. You can take 2 minutes out of your day and give them a nice response.
So what's your stance on, because I struggle with this, asking for reviews? Because remember you said asking for money makes you feel greedy. Is it kind of like, because I struggle to ask for reviews.
I don't really struggle with it. I always do it personalized, especially the style. Like a lot of places, if they're have a lot of clients, for example, dental clinic, it just like gets sent out with an email, right? Thanks for your recent visit. If you have a moment, please leave us a Google review. And it has a link. It takes them right there. If you don't know how to get your link, I can show you. Because it's very handy to just have the direct link, because we don't want to make people do extra work.
Yeah.
We're already asking them for a review. We don't want to be like, so head to Google and like look up this and then like turn left, go right. Like, you know what I mean? So just like direct link, which you can get through your Google My Business that we set up. But I would just say, hey, you know, for like a small business like myself, it's really powerful for somebody to leave me a review. If you have a moment, I would love for you to drop me a review at this link and just share about your experience working with me.
Okay.
And a lot of people would love to do that, like, especially if they had a good experience with you.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you had somebody who hated you, you're probably not going to send them that link. We're not actively trying to get bad reviews here. Or you can post it on your social media, like the stories is a good one. And it depends on how many people you have. Like, so for, let's say, a hair salon that might have 200 clients come through in a month, it's like a link where like that might grab 2 or 3 people. But if you only have at any given time, let's say, I don't know, how many clients do you work with? Like 10, 20?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're smaller numbers.
Yeah.
So if you have 1,000 people on social media following you and you post that to the stories, it's only going to be relevant to 10 to 20 people. So I would say in that situation, I would just individually reach out, whether it's like through a text, whether it's through an email, and just be like, hey, Josie, like, you know, it has been such a pleasure working with you. I love to see like how healthy we've gotten, like the microbiome in your guts, or however you talk. You know, as a smaller business, or as like whatever, an independent coach, or however you go. I know you hate the word coach, but it would mean a lot to me, and just personalize it.
Yeah.
And here's the link. No rush, but it would mean a lot if you could just take a moment and leave a review.
I think I don't know if other small businesses can attest to this, and I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I think sometimes like I feel asking for a testimonial review, or however you would like to word it, is almost to make sense of my conversation, is almost needy, because I feel if they really wanted to do one, they would have done one. No, I
completely disagree.
Okay.
And I will reaffirm that with the last course I took in social media. They also said, you got to ask. You got to ask for reviews. Some said you could do it in a video format, where you take a video of yourself and you send it out to clients asking for a review. Like, there's different ways you can do it, but like, ask and you shall receive, right?
Fair. Okay.
It's just like, why would you go to a restaurant and if you wanted like extra sauce, but you were like, I don't want to ask, they're not just going to be like, hey, I thought like you might want some extra sauce, so like we just brought it out, you know? Sometimes you just have to ask for things. And it's no different than asking for people to come see you as the client. You just put it under a call to action, but that is asking for them to do something. You have to ask for.
Okay, because that is what I learned through YouTube, was that call. You said the words right there, call to action.
Yeah.
And once that made a lot of sense to me, because that's why I put, which still has to improve, because a lot of creators put it at the beginning, but at the end of every YouTube video, I say, if you like that video, please hit the like and subscribe button and follow me. And I don't know if that's the best call to action, but at least I'm making an attempt now compared to before, where I was just like, okay, bye.
Totally.
Right?
And I mean, sometimes I've seen it on YouTube as well, where they'll say, if you want to receive more great content like this, make sure you're following me.
Okay.
Or, you know, you can word it differently. Like I said, doing things that are a little bit different than just redundantly saying like, comment, share.
Yeah. Okay.
Can be good. Not that one's bad, but it's, what was your thoughts on this video? Comment in the section below. Or have you ever dealt with this? Or, you know what I mean? Like, get more engagement. It doesn't always have to be about following. Of course, you want people to follow. You could have a little flash in your screen, or at one point where it says like, hit here to subscribe.
Yeah.
But your call to action could definitely be different.
Okay.
Join the conversation we're having on Instagram about this, or, you know, I'll be live on Instagram talking about this topic on this date, or share this with somebody you know who's been struggling with autoimmune, or whatever it is. It can be a variety, but I would say always have something.
Would you, would you do that in like Instagram Reels as well? Like, would you have call to action there, or is that just an entirely different aspect?
Yeah, again, like you can have a call. Let me take my words back. I don't think you have to have a call to action every single post. Maybe you're just putting out a feel good post.
Okay.
It's like you still could incorporate it in there somewhere, but for real, yeah, absolutely. Call to action would be, again, vote in the comments, or if you want to see, like you talk about putting your reel for your YouTube videos, then what would your call to action be? Do you want to see the full video? Head over to YouTube. Link is in my bio.
Yeah. Because the only complication I have with that, I guess, is I'm taking from the YouTube video. So I obviously don't say that in the YouTube video, but that's something that I'm learning too. Because I don't know if you've ever heard of Skillshare, but they offer courses and stuff. And so that was one thing they said is, remember, videos can be edited, so you could talk about your video, but then say something like that, even though that's not part of the YouTube video, but you have that for the Instagram reel now. Yeah. It's the same with, remember we were talking about making reel covers? Yeah. Not only do I have a thing on Photoshop where it shows me exactly where it's going to get cut off, which saves my life, but I understand now, like we were talking before, this is why the camera zoomed out, because if I zoom in the camera and we're only here, then when I go to make a reel, I'm getting cut off at the neck.
Totally.
Kind of thing. So that I learned that, like, especially after our conversation.
People have such a hard time wrapping their mind around the reel covers. Which, like, I don't know why, but like, it's funny because I'm like, no. Like, your reel will take up the full screen, but it'll get cropped into your feed. Yeah. And then that's what happens is people get their heads cut off.
Yeah. Well, and then you look at my Instagram and it is very, I will be fully honest, disorganized. Like if you look at it, and it's trial and error, like it's just learning and whatnot. And there are some days though where I still get discouraged. And I'm just like, I don't want to put effort into this reel cover. I just want to get it out and be done with it. So now that I have a post, and then you feel bad afterwards. It's like, why don't you just, put the effort in? And so that is something though that once again too though that I've taken away from you is like, okay, just, put the effort forth, the consistency, it'll pay off.
One thing we learned in school, which actually was kind of a new concept for me, but when I was in Brain Station and we were just going at such a high level for 3 months straight. Like I think there was a week I literally slept for 8 hours, but their thing that they would always tell us is done is better than perfect.
Okay.
Which kind of, as somebody who tends to be a bit of a perfectionist, was a huge learning thing for me. But it's like, even with how technology is, everything can evolve with time. Mm-hmm. So just keeping up with the consistency is better than getting so like pigeonholed on one thing that you're not getting it out there at all.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So with where you're at right now, what are the future objectives? What are the goals? What are the plans? What do you have for your business, for yourself?
I mean, I just see like continual growth. I'm such a huge believer in ongoing education and learning. Video is an area that I'd like to expand into because I think, we all know at this point that area is continuing to grow. Personally, I am trying to get better at TikTok. TikTok is still a little cringe for me, as I think a lot of people are. I mean, so many people are going there. It's the way of the world. TikTok's happening. We all know it. Nobody's fighting that truth anymore. Yeah. I mean, some people are, but yeah. So I've just been like really trying to keep up with technology, evolve, grow.
Okay.
And yeah, learning as I go.
Yeah. Okay. So like the objective is to kind of still like just be the digital marketer and working with clients, or do you like plan on starting like having people working under you, like big organization? Or no,
I think that I like being a boutique service. So I don't want that corporate vibe of you just become like a number.
Okay.
To me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
I really believe I would rather offer a very high quality service, like in a boutique style, so that you can message me like at 7 a.m. and I will respond.
Okay.
Usually.
Yeah.
I am getting better about taking the stress away from it. Like, if I'm driving, it's like, I can wait 10 minutes, but I am willing to like bend over backwards and help my clients for their success. So I guess like my goal is to just create something that's a very high quality service, and my clients feel like they're personally connected with me, that they're not just like a number on the books.
Okay. So what would be like a cap for amount of clients then, so you can continue to provide that kind of service?
So and I guess I should mention, I actually do have one person that I subcontract that helps me with the SEO. So we work together on that. I can see myself having more of that where I subcontract people just because then it's their own business. And I always think back to when I worked at the agency, how much I hated just having this one person. Like I'm such I want other people to feel empowered. And I think when they have their own business, they work harder and they'll put more of their heart into it. And so I'm very mindful of the people I work with. So I have Bogdan, who is my SEO guy, and we work together with the SEO, and he's amazing. He's phenomenal at it. And then I have another girl who's kind of my marketing admin, I guess. And so she offers me a lot of support, make sure things are getting posted. She's my spreadsheet guru because I'm the worst at keeping track of things. Again, talking about, why do I have people hire me? Because they might be a specialist at hairstyling, but they hate social media. Mm-hmm. I hate doing the bookkeeping aspects of it. So why wouldn't I hire somebody to help me with that? Yeah. And it's like a high vibe spending, right? Mm-hmm. When you're helping other people build their dreams as well. So yeah. Okay. But beyond that, I could see myself having maybe a couple of other subcontractors, but never going large scale. Yeah. And I love just the fact that I can pack up and go to Mexico tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I probably won't get away for the summer. It gets busy with photography, but fair enough. In the winters, it's nice.
And so you mentioned you do coaching?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so how does that look like? It's kind of like teaching people to do what you do, or?
Yeah, 100%. So for example, I actually have a client tomorrow morning who's, she's actually getting prepped for an interview that she's doing. And she asked for some SEO coaching because that might be an element of her job and she doesn't really fully understand it. So she just wants to learn about it and get prepared for this interview for some questions they might have for her. But then there's other times where, I've had somebody who's in their 50s who has an at-home business and they have no idea how to even start doing reels. And we talk back about how, we start talking in our industry terms and people have no idea what we're talking about. So doing stuff like that really teaches me to peel it back and talk in very simple layman's terms and just help offer them support to get them started on their little home business, making reels. So we'll sit down, let's say once a month, spend time, and I'll say, okay, I want you to work on this month. And then we meet the next month. I review along the way, the reels they've done, offer feedback. Stuff like that. Okay. That makes sense. It looks different for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So where can everybody find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's digital with Angela. I'll
be putting it in the caption thing.
Put it in the caption. I also have a website, which is angelacarrigan.com. You can also put that in the caption. Website is kind of ongoing. I like to experiment with my own website. So, occasionally it goes down because I broke it. Trying something new. So, it might be offline for a day or two.
Okay. So what about TikTok?
You said I'm on TikTok, but it's not really a business TikTok at this point. I've just been playing around with different concepts. So.
Okay. So learning experience.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other platforms?
I would say those are my main two. I am on Facebook as well, but if you're on Facebook, then snore.
Yeah, fair enough.
My main one's probably the Instagram.
Okay. Are you taking on any clients right now?
I am. For website clients right now, I'm booked until, so I sometimes don't have space to take people on immediately, but I have a waiting list, and then we can start on small aspects of the project because I usually have clients do homework, as you know, their own research of finding out what they like, what they don't like. But my next website opening would be middle of June to July. And right now I have an opening for one more social media client. So I'm pretty full, but I mean, that can always change. So if it's something people are interested in, I always encourage you to reach out and we can talk and just see, how I can help you in the meantime.
Okay, cool. Well,
and sorry, just plug one last thing. I always offer a free discovery call, which is just a really great opportunity. It's an hour to chat with me about, what your goals are. You can ask me questions. So even we can just chat for an hour. Sometimes I just like an excuse to meet somebody new. And if it's well aligned and you want to work with me, then we can go from there. But if you just want to get tips free for an hour, hit me up.
That's the hard part too, because like when you offer that complimentary consultation or as you mentioned, discovery call.
I mean, obviously don't just hit me up if you have no interest.
Yeah. So prior to the podcast, Angela kept asking, like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? And I'm always like, you, right? And the reason I enjoy doing this is because like I take away things and like I'm going to go back and listen to this because there are things that you said that I'm like, oh, okay.
You just like to make people squirm too.
But it wasn't as bad as you thought, was it?
No, it's pretty good.
Right. And so, but like in all seriousness,
5-star Yelp.
Thank you. All seriousness, I'm going to go back because like this is why I want to do this because I learned and I think other people can extremely benefit from you as well. And that's what I mentioned. I want to give people a platform here, even though it's not the greatest. It's consistency. And every time, like we were mentioning, the run time is going up, up and up and up and up. And I think you brought tons of value to this because as you mentioned, our world is social media now.
It really is.
Right?
Digital.
Yeah. And
digital.
Yeah, and you've brought tons of value to this. So I think a lot of people are going to appreciate it and really be able to learn from you. And I hope people really do reach out for you, which I know they will.
Cool. And well, thanks for having me on. That was awesome. My first podcast experience.
There you go.
Hopefully I didn't say like too much. That's my hang
You'll
up.
be fine. But see, it wasn't so bad.
Wasn't so bad.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Angela. I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, everybody.